Welcome. We're on the Daf Gimel Amud Beis on the bottom, and the Gemara is talking about, yesterday spoke about winds and cloud and dew, and the Gemara continues more about the benefits of different things that help, like rain. And then the Gemara is going to go in some Aganata today and get back to the sugya about when we start Haskara and She'ela, when we start and mentioning the praise of Hashem about rain and asking for rain. So we're up to Gimel Amud Beis, about I guess 10 lines up or so. Amar Rav Yehuda. Amar Rav Yehuda, Zika de Basa Mitra Kemitra, Eva de Basa Mitra Kemitra, Shimsha de Basa Mitra Ketremitri. So Gemara says about 3 benefits. A wind after a rain is as beneficial as a rain. The clouds after the rain is also as beneficial as a rain, and the sun after a rainfall is like beneficial like 2 rainfalls. The Gemara said earlier about Zika de Basa Mitra, that was the previous Gemara, that's how it came in over here. Also, the Gemara said that sometimes the wind after a rain is not good if it's going to be strong in a way that it's going to blow the Mala Avak. The Gemara is finished saying that it's going to make mud onto the plant vegetation. That's not good. But if it wasn't like that, so then the wind is beneficial. The Gemara doesn't say why. I guess we have to find out from the agriculturists if they understand why it's good. The wind after rain is good. The clouds after rain also good. It means even if it's not raining, it rained already. Now just the fact that there are clouds in the sky, that's also beneficial. The moisture, I guess, I don't know. And also the sun rays after sun is as beneficial as 2 rains. Lamutemai, what is it coming to exclude? I don't really understand why the way the Gemara sees that it's coming to exclude something. I don't see what the diuk is, but it sounds like he's coming to say that not everything is beneficial. I don't know what the Gemara sees that in the word, but the answer is Lamute Gile, the Lela, the Shimsha de Beni Karchi. 2 things that the Gemara is coming to exclude that are not so beneficial. And the word Gili alone, there seems to be a question what it means. Some kind of a light. A light, Rashi says the light of the night. Rashi brings a place where you see the word Gile means in the open place. But he seems to have a different translation in the word in the Gemara Pesachim Daf Yud Gimel over there. And some say flashes of light. I see that's how the art scroll just translates it like flashes of light. I got it right. Let me just look at it again. Gili Kedasha Shimshi. He says flashes of light that occur at night. So I'm not sure. And also Shimsha de Beni Karchi, Rashi explains, again, this is not Rashi, but the Pirush explains that the Karchi means a person who's bald, like bald patches, and if it means that if there is rain that falls between sun, he says here sunny patches, a sunlight that appears between the bald patches of clouds, that there are clouds, and between the clouds there's a sunlight, so that also is not so beneficial. I don't know the science of all these things. I don't know. But the Gemara is telling us in the beginning, it spoke about things that are beneficial, about a wind after a wind, or cloud, or sunlight after a rain is very beneficial. And there's these two things are not necessarily. The Gemara says, snow is good for the mountains, like 5 rainfalls for the ground. And this I heard from Rabbi Miller. He just points out that on a mountain, that rain would just fall down the slope. It wouldn't be able to have time to be able to absorb into the ground. But snow is very beneficial for mountains because it slowly does enter and get saturated into the ground. So that is beneficial, like 5 rainfalls. It sounds like it's even more beneficial for the mountain than it will be regular rainfall. Even for the flat ground, it could be that it goes very slow. Even underground, also the water is not always able to penetrate. Sometimes it flows further because the ground doesn't absorb so fast. But the fact that snow could dissolve slowly, so then it does get penetrated into the ground, and snows are very beneficial, especially for mountains. The Gemara continues, Vamarava Talgal Ture, Mitra Razia Lilani, Mitra Nichal Peri, and the Gemara continues on the next page about different kinds of rains. Snow is good for the mountains. Talga is a shelag. And just to point out always that shin, not always, but a shin in Hebrew would be translated, not translated, would transform into a tough in Aramaic. So shelag is teleg. like shalosh is tlas. Same thing. The tough when it comes, the shin becomes a tough. Talga
Why
lature.
is that, by the way?
What?
Why is it?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. There's some. You have different in the languages, like zahav, vizdav, zayin, and a dollar interchangeable. I don't know the lumdus of it. Talga lature. Snow is good for the mountains. Mitra razia lilani is strong. We had the word before. Razia means strong. It's similar to Yiddish. Rizadik, razia. So Mitra razia lilani, a strong wind is good for trees. Mitra nicha leperi, a gentle wind is good for peri. Rashi says peri means produce. Means for the trees. It's better when it's a strong rain, so then it penetrates the ground. I imagine it means it penetrates the ground deeper, and it gets more beneficial to the roots of the tree. I imagine that's what it means. Peri might have meant the fruit alone that are already growing, but Rashi says peri means the produce of tvua. That tvua is called over here peri, and a gentle rain is good for tvua.
How we know gentle rain is mitra?
Mitranicha. Mitranicha.
That's the next page.
No, bottom. Mitranicha. See it on the screen? Mitranicha.
Oh, mitra nicha.
There's mitra. There's mitra. Mitra means mata. Mitra.
Nicha meant it's nice for.
No. Look before. Talga lature. Mitra razia lilane. Mitra nicha leperi. A snow is good for is for mountains. It means it's good. You have to stick in the word that is good for. It's good for mountains. Mitra razia. A strong rain is for trees. And mitra nicha leperi. A calm rain is good for peri, which Rashi says means produce. To continue on to the next page, the fourth thing is orpila. Orpila is like a light rain or a showering rain, like a shower of rain. It sounds like it's even less, it's even more pleasant, even more gentle than the mitra nicha. It sounds like orpila. Rashi says kishamim dakim, that it means some kind of a very light rain. I imagine. Okay. I feel a little procedure. The tutekala mahanile. It even helps for seeds that are under a clump of earth. The word kala kuflamadal means a clump of earth. Procedure seems to mean seeds that are under a clump of earth. It's also going to help. It's going to help it to be able to sprout. The Gemara says, "What is a pila?" So a pila is Aramaic word that meant some kind of a showering rain. But the Gemara is darshaning the word. Sometimes the Gemara does that. It darshans even other languages, not only Hebrew. It could darshan a language. My pila. What is the word pila coming from? Uru pili. So pili means dakim. It means a crack. Uru, Rashi says, maybe two pshatim. Rashi says uru means like mu'ureh, when something is intertwined. So it'll close up the cracks in the ground. Rashi has another pshat that is going to cause to grow the seeds that are in the cracks in the ground. But that's why it's called an opila, that kind of a showering rain, a light rainfall. Once the Gemara mentions this thing about putzida, the tusekala, we're going to go on a tangent a little bit. These words about a seed under the clump of earth. So the Gemara has something to say about it, nothing to do about the rain anymore. We're going on a tangent. We just mentioned about the seeds under a clump of earth. So a young Talmud Chacham, a budding Talmud Chacham will say. A regular Talmud Chacham was already a full-grown Talmud Chacham. We don't call him Sovim Rabbanan. Rashi says the term would be a Humer Rabbanan. You don't call him Tzorba. Tzorba is only somebody who's in the growing stage. So Sovim Rabbanan, Dami Lepotzid, the Tusekala. A sprouting Talmud Chacham is like a seed under a clump of earth. The Chibin the Navat. Once it starts sprouting, it's going to sprout. So too, Rashi says that a young Talmud Chacham, once he starts, you see that he's moving. He starts sprouting, so he's going to become a big Talmud Chacham. Rashi maybe talks about the word that if he starts getting a name for himself, I don't know if Rashi means not with a name. But you see the words Parasida the Tusekala on the top line? That was a seed under the clump of earth. And now he says on the third line the same thing over again. 2 days under. Parasida the Tusekala. The thing we're saying something about those words. Before we spoke about the physical rain that helps for the seeds, the physical seeds that are under the clump of earth. But now we're saying, Marshall, this is a nice tangent that we have something which is comparable to Parasida the Tusekala. To us, what's that? A Talmud Chacham. A sprouting Talmud Chacham is like a seed under a clump of earth. Once it starts sprouting, it's going to break through. Now we go on to kala means a clump of earth. A clump of earth. We had it not so long ago. We had it in Rosh Hashanah when it spoke about that moon was showing itself, and I forgot who it was. He threw a clump of earth at it and said, "I don't want you to be here." So we had the word kala over there. Kala means a clump of earth. Amar Rava, I saw Rabbana the Ratach. Now the Gemara is going on a tangent. Once you mentioned about a Talmud Chacham, so we're talking about a Sovereign Rabbana and something else which is similar. I'm going to go on. I got it now for the rest of the page. Amar Rava, I saw Rabbana the Ratach, or Raisu the Kamarta Chale. If you see a Talmud Chacham who's angry, so when you see a regular person angry, so he has, he had midos, he's angry. But when you see a Talmud Chacham angry, not necessarily is because he has bad midos. I would put in that could be has bad midos, but there's another source that the Talmud Chacham might be angry. That's not a bad midah, and Rashi says he should be on the kafschus. That give him the benefit of the doubt. If he deserves the benefit of the doubt, he's Talmud Chacham. So there's other reasons, other sources of anger that are not a bad midah. That's called that the Torah. The Torah is boiling within him. It's the Torah that's heating him up. Like you see, the Torah is considered a fire. Hashem says my word is like fire. Someone has fire in him, so he becomes fiery. So the point is, Rashi, I think, explains, and we understand what it means, that a person who has a very strong right and wrong. By him, right and wrong is very strong. So he sees wrong, so he's very boiled up about it. But a person who doesn't have any kind of principles, so everything's good, this is good, that's good, he doesn't have, nothing really moves him. But a person who has principles, so then the wrong is very disturbing to him. So it could be that a Talmud Chacham gets angry. It might be that that's the source, not necessarily a bad midah.
Why not anyone who's Yerushalayim?
It could be, but a kid alone might be. If he doesn't know the right and the wrong, he might.
He sees something chalsha.
Okay, then he knows for sure what's right and wrong. Okay, but it could be. It could be you're saying that in the case, even if someone's not a Talmud Chacham, maybe it's not. But here, what the Gemara says is that the Torah is considered fire. So a person who has the Torah inside of him, he has that fire, so he's going to get heated up. But a person who doesn't have the Torah, even if he has Yerushalayim. So you're saying something else that the Gemara doesn't say. I'm not saying, but that's what the Gemara does say is that the Torah is considered fire. That's where the Gemara is dashing it from. So this drasha so far would only seem Talmud Chacham that he has the Torah. He has the other issues, but that's good. But maybe that. It is true that Mesilas Yesharim does talk about a person who has Avos Hashem, Kina, when he's zealous for Hashem, is because he loves somebody. So you can't tolerate when Hashem's name is being profaned.
I was thinking the first thing I thought about was Kinas Hashem, or Chil Hashem, that's appearing in front of him.
Okay, but here the point that the Gemara says is that the Torah makes him fiery. I think it's only going to be when it has to do with Torah. If it's going to be by something else, then I don't think it's going to apply. But okay, let's say what the Gemara says. A Talmud Chacham who's not strong, hard, like iron, is not a Talmud Chacham. I think the point is that he has to be, again, the principles that he has to be not wishy-washy. He has to have the right is right, wrong is wrong. He's not supposed to be wavering. That that's talking about Devari Keish Nom Hashem. That's the beginning of the pasuk, and it continues. It's like a sledgehammer that can burst open a boulder. So that's what the Torah is supposed to be like. It's supposed to be like fire. Like I said before, it's supposed to be fiery. It is fire, and a person becomes fiery like that. And also like a patish, like a sledgehammer. So you have to use it for right, of course. About Ravashi, Abba told Ravashi, you learn it from there. Like it just said, Ravashi, one line ago it said that the source is we, it doesn't say where we are, maybe Rabbi himself or other Talmidei Chachamim that was in his Beis Medrash. We learned it from someplace else. And we learned the same point from a different source. That it's supposed to be strong, like Barzel. The pasuk says a land. Talking about Eretz Yisrael, it says Eretz Yisrael is so chashuv that even the stones are iron. It means the things you can mine, iron, and over there talks about nechoshes. That's the pasuk shot. Yeah, but the drash is going to be. You can have a drash that the word aboneh doesn't mean stones, but it means boneh. We know other places where it says that the chachamim are called the builders. So the builders. But the builders are like Barzel. So another source to the point, another source for this point that Talmud Chacham is supposed to be kosher Barzel. Either that the patish is a sledgehammer, so it's a Barzel, or this pasuk Boneh Barzel. The builders of Torah are supposed to be like Barzel.
What is the builder of Torah?
What is that?
I don't see the drush of Boneh.
You say it every day. I'll tell you Bonoich. The Bonoich is Talmidei Chachamim. The Gemara says a few places that the Bonim, they're called builders. But knowing we had a couple of places this Drash that they call builders. They're supposed to build. The Torah people, they're building the world. They're called Tikkun Olam. So even though there is such a point about that there's a room for a Talmud Chacham to be angry because he has this midah of fire in him, but still a person should train himself to be calm. It means he has to control himself also. That even though there is more room for a Talmud Chacham to be excited than a person who's not. But still, he also should train himself to be calm. Remove anger from your heart. I don't see how the Gemara knows that it's talking about the good midah of kas. It could be that's a bad midah of kas. So the Gemara says still Talmud Chacham should try to contain himself, even though he has that fire within him. New Gemara. That's under Gemara, and it all came in because of the rain. We spoke about the rain, so we spoke about different kinds of rain and snow and a strong rain, a light rain. Even at the end, we spoke about this pila. And then because of that, we went into a side point about Garata that we mentioned about Talmid Chachamim who start sprouting, and it said that if it could be, there's anger over there also sometimes, fire, barzel, and that's the end of the not more starts a new sugya, and we're not going to get back to our sugya of rain until the end, bottom of the page. But this is more like an introduction that's going to lead up to our sugya. And also, I got it. There are three people that asked something improperly. They didn't ask a proper request. Out of those three, two of them, even though they asked improperly, they got answered properly. That means Hashem gave them a good answer, even though they didn't ask appropriately. But the third one, he didn't get an appropriate answer. He asked inappropriately and got an inappropriate answer. And what are the three? These are the three people. Eliezer ben Avram, Shaul ben Kish, that's Shaul HaMelech, and Yiftach HaGaladi. Those are the three. The first two, the Gemara is going to say that they asked also something inappropriate. They didn't ask accurately the way they should have asked for. And still Hashem answered them with a good answer. But Yiftach, he requested something inappropriately, and he didn't get answered appropriately. Now the Gemara is going to go through all three of them. Eliezer ben Avram. What was the case of Eliezer ben Avram? Agav, it doesn't say in the pasuk that it was Eliezer. It talks about that Avram sent his Eved to get a wife for Yitzchak. It doesn't say what his name is. And people think that it says 25 times in the parsha. It's a nice quiz question for the kids. How many times does it say Eliezer in the parsha? It doesn't say even once. It just says the whole time Eved Avram. But the Gemara takes it for granted that it's Eliezer ben Avram, that he went to get a wife for Rivka. As we know the story, that he asked Hashem that the girl who's going to come out and I'm going to ask for water, he's going to, and she'll say, take, and also I'm going to give also for the camels. That's the one who you're showing to be the wife. The Gemara is going to say, and she's going to say also your camels. She's the one that you're showing for Yitzchak. She might come out a lame girl or a blind girl. That's the one. Just because she did a chesed, is that going to be the wife for Yitzchak? So that was an appropriate thing to ask. The question arises that he could have seen that he'll see that she's a lame girl. He didn't mean that. He didn't. But the Gemara says that wasn't the way to ask. He shouldn't have asked someone like that. Rashi tries to say that he might not have checked her out enough. He shouldn't have just said that he's only asking for chesed. He should have also maybe said, and she should be healthy and whatever else is necessary. But still, he got a good answer. He got Rivka. Shibuk Hogan is down the Rivka, even though he didn't ask properly. He didn't ask accurately enough.
That was guy again. She was 3 and he's 40. Is that a match?
So the answer is yes. That's the answer. It's the greatest match. Yitzchak and Rivka. Do you have to take that everything is literal? I don't think so. The pasuk doesn't say that she was 3, and the Midrashim also don't all agree that she was 3. You don't have to take that as a given. The pasuk says he was 40. What?
He could have also been younger.
No, it says he is 40. It says 40. It says Perish 40. The pasuk says hopefully he was 40. People, the people know the 3 more than they know the 40. The 40 is a pressure pasuk, and the 3 is not. So it's not. One time I was teaching in Esha Torah, and somebody asked me this question, Rabbi, 40 and 3. So I said, I don't think you have to take the medrash of 3 literally. He said, I could be a good Jew and not. I said, yes, you could be a good Jew. That you don't have to take it. First of all, it's not a pasuk, and the medrash, I think, is not to be taken literally always. And there are other midrashim. The other midrashim says she was 12. So. And even if you want to say more than 12, like it's not, the pasuk doesn't say, so I don't think you have to take the Midrashim literally. The Midrashim are not coming to say the storyline that's missing information in the Torah. The Midrashim are always coming to say something deep, and I don't think that you have to take them literally. So that was a case where he did not ask accurately, and still he got answered well. Second case is Shaul. Shaul also says something was not appropriate. Still Hashem gave him a good answer. Shaul ben Kish, that's Shaul HaMelech, that's Sid. That Shaul promised his daughter to anybody that's going to conquer Goliath. Goliath was the one who was fighting against Am Yisrael, and he threatened Am Yisrael. He was mocking them. Who's the one who could fight with me? Let's make it 1 against 1. And nobody was willing. And the king said that whoever's going to conquer him is going to get first of all, very wealthy, and also my daughter. Who knows? Maybe the one who's going to be able to conquer Goliath is going to be not a good yichus, Eved or Mamzer. And Shibuk Hogan, and he got David, and his Damalo David. So Hashem gave him a good answer, even though he didn't ask appropriately. But the third one who asked, he didn't get an answer appropriately. What was over there? When he went out to war, so he said, whatever's going to come out of my door first is going to be a korban. And he thought that's going to be animal, and he should have been kosher. Maybe it's going to be a non-kosher animal. But yeah, you'd say they'll say basically it's going to be a ola. Could have been a double. That wasn't a good way to say. He should have said the first kosher animal, the first mufchar animal, whatever it might have been. But the fact that he said anything, the first thing that comes out. So what happened at the end? The Shiva Shlo Kogan is down a little bit though. So his daughter was the one that came out, and over there the pasuk says that he dedicated her to Hashem. So what does that mean? Some take it literally, and he slaughtered her, but that the Gemara might be seeming. The next Gemara might be seeming like he slaughtered her as a korban, which of course is not what Hashem wanted. And other Mepharshim learn in the parsha over there that he didn't slaughter her, but he dedicated her to be only for Hashem, and in a way that she didn't even marry, and that wasn't a proper thing. That Gilad is Gilad. Gilad is the place where Yiftach came from, and the Navi says there's no tzarit. Tzarit is a kind of it's used as a medicine. So I don't know literally. So usually tzarit means a balsam, but maybe it also had medicinal properties besides also just being a fragrance. But is there no medicine in Gilad? Is there no doctor over there? So the Gemara doesn't explain what that's referring to. You might say the Pasha without knowing any Rashi or Midrashim. Rashi and Taisus bring a Midrash. I'll say it in a second. But the Pasha words will say, is there no doctor over there? And that means there's nobody that could have helped out Yiftach. Means Yiftach messed it up. So that's what the Rashi and Taisus brings down, that there could have been a Torah's neder, that they could have, even though he made a neder, he could have been Matan neder, which the Gemara doesn't even hint at. Like it sounds like they meant like the Gemara. If you think that that's what the Gemara means to tell us, it's very vague. That the Gemara just says the pasuk, is there no doctor? Doesn't explain anything. But the Amid Rashi Mashmi is not a Medrash Rabbah that says that there could have been a Torah's nedorim, that he could have nullified. What's the word to say? Torah's nedorim in English. How do you say that? It's not nullifying. It's more okay. So he could have undone his neder, but he didn't go to Pinchas. Pinchas didn't come to him, and it ended up that she was dedicated, whatever the word dedicated is going to mean, if she means that she was slaughtered or she was dedicated her life to only spiritual without having the physical part of life, which is not the way Hashem wants it. So is there no doctor over there? Another pasuk the Gemara is going to bring. They're both wrong. Yeah, it's an interesting thing because I find other places where the same machlokas is the Navi supposed to go to the king, or is the king supposed to go to the Navi? So it's a question of if he wants, so let him come. So is the doctor supposed to go? So there's the machlokas also. The Gemara brought down that here the Gemara doesn't say anything over here. The Medrash says it like that. The Gemara says a similar thing that doesn't say any problem. Chizkiyahu and Yeshayahu also had the machlokas. Who's supposed to go to who? And over there, Hashem made that. Chizkiyahu became sick, and Yeshaya came to visit him. So there was Hashem made up shora. Me that patient double. So there, mamash same machlokas. And it seems like it's maybe it's a valid machlokas. I don't know. The Gemara makes it sound.
I don't get this. Even if they both need each other, but if here he needs the Navi, he needs the Navi. So he should go. I mean, it's stuff.
It's his daughter's on the line. His daughter's on the line. He's such a stubborn guy.
I don't know if it's taken literally again. I don't know if take it literally, it could be, but the Gemara doesn't say it over here. Again, the Navi has a job to tell over there by Yeshaya. Hashem told the Navi to say something. So then also I don't need a kasha. Hashem told him to go to Hashem told him to tell Chizkiyahu. I think that the point is that Hashem didn't tell him because the question is which the cover. They have the cover of the Navi, the cover of.
Melech has to go to the doctor. Yes, he goes to the doctor.
No, he calls the doctor to come to him. You think the king goes to the doctor? I don't think so. But the question is by the Navi. What's the proper cover between a Navi and a king? I don't know the answer is. What's the proper cover?
He pays him extra, so he comes.
No. We're talking about what's right. We're not talking about what is right. What is the proper?
I don't know. If I need someone, even if I'm on Mechumadim, I have to go to him. No.
I'm talking about what's the proper cover. What's proper? You're not saying what's proper. You're saying if you need, you need. I'm talking about what's proper. What's the proper thing? So I think there is welcome for this question. What's more proper? But again, the Gemara here.
Eliyahu right before Achad.
Yes, you do find that. Over there, the Gemara brings down, I think, by Eliyahu, by Elisha, and what is it? By Chizkiyahu and Yeshaya. I think over there, each one brings a source to what he did. I think that's the Gemara in Brachos. It brings down that as one of the choices. And there's another case where the king did go to the case by Elisha. Yehoshaphat went, not Yehoshaphat, what's his name? Yehoram went to Elisha. So the Gemara brings each time. You see one place where the Navi went to the king, one place the king went to the Navi. The Gemara doesn't make the main point of this Gemara by us. The Gemara just brings the pasuk down. So Ayin Sham. But the Gemara continues as if to say, I think the first round the Gemara sounds like he did slaughter her. And the Gemara is going to bring that Hashem doesn't want such kind of kabbalah. Hashem doesn't want human sacrifice. That Hashem said that he never commanded such a thing. He never spoke about such a thing. He never entered his heart. And the Gemara is going to say 3 places where you see that somebody slaughtered a human, or almost did. We'll see in a second. And Hashem never meant that a person should be slaughtered. So there's a story in the Navi where it talks about the king of Moab, that he was warring with Yehuda and Israel, and also Edom. The Israel and Yehuda got together with Edom, and they fought against Moab. And over there, it says that the king of Moab, so he took his firstborn son that would have succeeded him, and he brought him for an olah. So the Gemara takes it to mean that the king of Moab took his own son and sacrificed him to Hashem as a way of pleading to Hashem to save him from these kings. And that was the Goyish way, that they would slaughter their own sons in order to bring a sacrifice to Hashem. Hashem says, I never asked for such a thing. I don't want, don't CBC. I didn't command such kind of mitzvahs to make a human sacrifice. Over there, some of Farshim will learn over there that the king of Moab took the son of the king of Edom, and killed him because he was like a, what do they call that? What do they call it when someone has a vassal, slave, or something like that? They had something in the kingdom that they had the enemy's relatives as the ransom, but the Gemara is taking it that he took his own son, and that the Gemara is saying that Hashem said, I never commanded that person should sacrifice his own son. The next one is Velo Dibarti. I never spoke about such a thing. So Yiftach, that Hashem never said such a thing that he should make his daughter to be a sacrifice. And the third thing is Velo also Ali Bi, Yitzchak ben Avram. Over there, Avram didn't slaughter Yitzchak, but Hashem told him to. But Allah also Ali Bi, and that means in my heart, so to speak, Hashem said, take Balei Ola, but not that, like the Gemara says at the end, the Midrash says, Hashem just said, I told him to take him up. He took him up, that's okay, take him down. So, Lo also Ali Bi, that Hashem never wanted Yitzchak to be actually slaughtered. So the Gemara finished with the 3 people that asked inappropriately. They didn't ask precisely in the right way, but 2 of them Hashem still gave them a good answer. The third one, Yiftach, Hashem did not. And all that is just like done with the next Gemara, which is coming now back to the rain.
Maybe it means that they should put her as a way for just the holy things.
I'm not understanding. The Gemara
Who said that he slaughtered her? Maybe that they should be put away.
It could be, but the fact that the Gemara puts them all 3 together, it sounds like the Gemara is taking it that he slaughtered her. But if you want to say differently, it's fine.
Is Jonathan not the same?
Jonathan, what did he do?
He said to the poor, let's go up. If they say come up to us, then Hashem's giving them into our hand. If they stay there, and we're going to.
That's a different question. I'm allowed to do such a thing. It's called nachash, but that's not a question about like he's taking a sign from heaven, but he's not like either yes or no. Like is Hashem gonna? That's a question. Are you allowed to do such a thing? Are you allowed to rely on such simanim? But here, the point that he might have gotten something, even if the point of what his answer was, what his condition, he made a condition, and the condition wasn't specific enough. But here his condition was specific. That if this is the simon that I'm taking, that if Hashem is going to say this is a way of talking to me. Maybe it's the wrong thing to do that. And the postscript over there, the Gemara, I think over there says that it was okay. It was good. It was okay. They talk about why. How does it fit with the Gemara's rule? What's the rule of the thumb that you're allowed to do what you're not allowed to do? So they talk about that. I forgot the details. The Gemara now goes back into our subject. We find Am Yisrael. This is a drash level, but we'll see what the drash is. That Am Yisrael also asked something improperly. Now it's not going to be anything bad. Like till now, the questions were not, the requests were not good. Maybe the chassan the kala is going to be blind, lame, some other kind of blemish that he wouldn't have wanted for Yitzchak, or by Shaul, maybe also the chassan is going to be someone who's not fit for his daughter, and Yiftach, who knows what's going to come out of the door. But here's not going to be so bad, but it's still going to be that it wasn't proper enough. And Hashem gave an answer better than the request. Knesset Yisrael asked not properly, and Hashem gave her a good answer. What was the case? We should know and run to know Hashem, like the morning that knows it's coming out, like when the sun comes up. That's like a morning, the rising of the sun. And Hashem should come to us like rain. So that's what the Gemara is stressing, that Am Yisrael asked that Hashem should come to us like a rain. The rain is a great thing. But Hashem said there's something better than a rain. The rain is not the greatest. It's true that usually rain is a good thing, but sometimes rain is not good. Sometimes rain in the wrong season is not good. So Hashem, to be asked that he should come to Am Yisrael like rain, is not the way to ask. I'm going to be even better than you asked. You asked, I should be like rain. I'm going to be something that people always want. And that's going to be like dew. I'm going to be like dew for Am Yisrael. And dew is always good. The dew is always good. It's never damaging. Rain sometimes can be damaging, but the dew, we had yesterday that sometimes the tal of bracha, tal shalol bracha, but even when it's not the bracha, it sounds like it doesn't do anything damage. It's not as beneficial. Sometimes it's not beneficial, but it's never damaging. So Hashem said, instead of doing what you asked, that I should be like rain, I'm going to be like dew. Once the Gemara says that, the Gemara says another similar thing, which is not our subject anymore, but once we're talking about Am Yisrael and not asking exactly first white line, Vod Shala, Am Yisrael asked Hashem, Shalom Kogan, Am Lefan of Ibn Shalom, Simeni Kechosam Ali Becha. Hashem asked, the Am Yisrael asked Hashem, make me to be like a signet on your heart, like a chosam, like a seal on your heart. Kechosam Malzeroecha, like a seal on your arm. So Hashem said that's not the best way to ask. It's not bad, but it's not the best. My daughter, when something's on the heart or on the arm, it isn't always seen, because when a person's wearing a sleeve, then you don't see anything on the arm, or surely when his heart is covered up. But I'm going to make it to be something which is always going to be noticed. I'm always going to see you. You want to be a chosen. You want me to be. Am Yisrael asks, make me to be a seal on your heart, on your arm. So Hashem says, if so, then I'm not always going to be conscious of you. I'm going to put you in a place that you're always going to be conscious. And I'm going to engrave you on my palm. And the palm is always noticeable. You never cover it up. Even when you're wearing a sleeve, it doesn't go down onto the hand. So the palm is always noticeable. So I'm going to engrave you on my palm in a way that I'm always going to be thinking about you. All that came in Agav. We started with the different kinds of rains, and we had a lot of Agadata. And now we go back to the sugya of asking for rain. The rest of the day today is going to be back to the Shmaitza, back to the Gemara. When do you start asking for rain? So very interesting. Just an introduction to the sugya, that the Mishnah seems to be very simple, and the Gemara seems to be a bit complicated, and takes away the simplicity of the Mishnah. In the Mishnah, there are two Mishnahs. One talks about, the first Mishnah we had talks about Hazkara, when you're supposed to mention the Hashem gives rain, in the second blessing of the Shemon Esrei. And then later on, in the blessing, the ninth blessing, where it talks about Baruch Aleinu, over there we're saying Talamata. And the Gemara, even in the first Mishnah, he said this Hazkara, and there's Sheila. Hazkara means to mention, and Sheila means to ask. That's a request. And we ask the same Talamata Levracha. And the Mishnah seems to say that two Mishnahs, one is about Mashu Baruch Hamor Geshem, and that talks about, we had the Mishnah that different opinions when you start, either the first day of Sukkot or the last day of Sukkot. We'll see today also maybe some, we said it the other day that some might explain that Rishon means Hoshana Rabbah. We'll see today a little stronger on that point. And at the end, we pass like Rabbi Yehuda that says that by Musaf of Shemon Esrei, Musaf of Shmini Atzeres, that in the Shachris of Shmini Atzeres you still don't say Mashu Baruch Hamor Geshem, but Musaf is the one you change. Very, very nice. And then the next Mishnah talks about on Daf Dalet coming up, or Daf Hey coming up, and it's going to be also, on Daf Yud, really on Daf Yud, it's going to talk about when do you start asking for rain. Over there it says the third of Cheshvan, the seventh of Cheshvan, like what we do. When do we start asking for rain? The seventh of Cheshvan. And then first they ask later, December 4th, 5th. So that's the simple Mishnah, and we'll get to the reasons. And the Gemara, for some reason, doesn't take it so simple. The Gemara makes it more complicated. And the halacha is going to be like the simple again. But we have to go, today's Gemara, we have to go a little bit not simple. And the Gemara starts off, this was we said in the Mishnah, even though the whole Mishnah is talking about Azkara, it does throw in one thing about Sheila, and it says you only ask for rain near the rainy season, which the Pashtan of the Mishnah seemed to say that even though we start asking for rain on Sukkot, the first or the last Shmini Atzeres, but as far as Sheila, we only ask that later on when it's going to be the rainy season in the Cheshvan. But the Gemara doesn't take it like that. So the Sheila Azkara, we thought the people in the Mishmerish that have the following question, they understood that Sheila and Azkar is all the same. The same Talamota and Mashruch Hamar Geshem is all the same. The word Sheila and Azkara, even though the Gemara says that ain't Sholin and Sagashamin, this word Sholin, you might think it means the same Talamota. The Gemara thinks that it's all the same. There's another shot in the Gemara that the Gemara thinks that they come the same time. Sheila and Azkar come the same time, not that they are one and the same. We know there are two different points. One is Mashu B'Chamor Nekash and one is Saint Talamot, but they come simultaneously. Two ways to learn the Gemara over here. If so, Mantana, if that's true, then who's the Tana of our Mishnah? So that it should be if so, the Mishnah would only be Rabbi Yeshua who says b'shas hanachasa. What does shas hanachasa mean? So shas hanachasa we said means when you put down the lulav, and there was a question if that means Hoshana Rabbah, which is they put down the lulav. Well, it means right after that it's going to be Shmini Atzeres. So in Rashi we had a couple of different ways how Rashi seems to say. The other Mefarshim also here on this daf, the Mefarshim are pretty strong that it means Hoshana Rabbah. Before the past couple of days, whenever I mentioned this, I always said that Shmini Atzeres, and I left out the possibility as Hoshana Rabbah. But I see on this daf, Rabbeinu Hanan or Rabbeinu Gershon, they seem to say pretty strongly, and the Gemara also might be much like that there was a sound to say according to Yeshua that it's Hoshana Rabbah, which is interesting. The Gemara, a few places we had already also, each time I tried to smear it over and say that don't take it so literally, it means really Shmini Atzeres, not Hoshana Rabbah. But there is such a possibility. The seventh day of Sukkot would be the first time that you would say Mashiach Baruch Hu Geshem according to Yeshua of the Mishnah. There was Beferish of Yeshua in the Brisa that says, how does it go? In the Mishnah said that it was, that it says Yom Tov Achron Shalchag, which means Shmini Atzeres. But there's a possibility, if Yeshua of the Brisa maybe says Hoshana Rabbah. How is it going to be that you'll do She'ela and Azkara all at the same time? So the Gemara seems to say, at this point, the Gemara is forgetting about the mission later on that it's the 7th of Cheshvan, and the Gemara thinks that you're going to start saying it together with Mashiach Baruch Hu Geshem. And Ein Sha'olas HaGshamim Elas Samach HaGshamim, either it's going to be in Hoshana Rabbah, and that day is going to be a weekday, and you're going to say both of them together. Hoshana Rabbah is a Chol HaMoed, so you're still saying Talamota. You're saying Baruch Aleinu. There's room to say Talamota. On Yontif, you can't say She'ela because there's no such bracha. In the Yontif Shmoneh Esrei, there is no She'ela, there's no Bakasha. The Gemara thinks that if they come at the same time, I'm saying the pshat that maybe they're both at the same time, simultaneously. So then the Gemara thinks all fits with Rabbi Yeshua. That not necessarily that it comes simultaneously. It could be that they don't come the same day. That'll be maybe on the first day of Sukkot, and there is no Baruch Aleinu on Sukkot. You don't say Baruch Aleinu B'chlal, but it means that it doesn't have to be exactly the same time. At the end, everything's going to be very simple. That they're very far apart. The way we pass it, the Gemara doesn't make so much sense because we do Mashiach Baruch Hu Geshem Shmini Atzeres. We don't do the same Talamot until much later on Zayin Cheshvan, which is the Pashut Pshat of the Mishnayos. But the Gemara is going here that they start simultaneously, and we're talking about if they're going to start on Hoshana Rabbah or right after Shmini Atzeres, and not like a Belezer that starts it on the first day of Yom Tov. The Gemara says you could say that it's still the same. Ikadamri, others have the same Gemara about just different names. Still now we had that Rava was the one that says Rabbi Yeshua, and Abai is the one who said that it could be Rabbi Lezer. The next Gemara says the same thing, just different names. Ikadamri, Lema, Amad Beis, Lema Rabbi Yeshua, he the Amar Misha Sanachasa. And again, the Gemara says necessarily it could be Rava Afilu Teim Rabbi Lezer Shei Lo Chod Vazkar Lechod. So the same question and answer. Before was Rava and Abai. Here it's going to be the Stam Gemara that thought that's only Rabbi Yeshua. And the Gemara says Rava says it could even be Rabbi Lezer and Shei Lo Vazkar are not necessarily the same. Either it means to say that they're not one and the same, the way Rashi learns, or that they're not simultaneously, that it could be 2 different days. The Gemara continues. Again, that's in the halacha. The halacha is going to be like we said, the simple pshat of the Mishnayos. Mashiach Baruch Hu Geshem Shmini Atzeres. The same Talamot is going to be on Zayin Cheshvan, as we're going to see later on. But so far, the Gemara is juggling with the possibility, yes or no, maybe they come together. And the next Gemara again is also going to be very strong that it takes, and the whole Gemara is going to come out. They do go simultaneously. When you start one, you start the other. And that doesn't fit with our mindset because we started much different times. But we'll take the Gemara here until we get to the halacha. The Gemara starts. The Mishnah says that Rabbi Yehuda is the one who says that the break is by Shmini Atzeres, Musaf, Shachos and Musaf. And also he continues and says that when it comes Pesach, it's also going to be, Musaf is going to be the cutoff point. That you say Mashiach Baruch Hu Geshem by Shachos of Pesach, still the first day of Pesach. But Musaf, that's when you stop, and that's when the summer starts, in the Musaf of the first day of Pesach.
That's why we do it.
That's why we do it. And that's very simple to us, but the Gemara has complication, and it's going to come out to our simplicity again. But this Gemara, this stuff of Gemara is not going to say it like that. But here, what does Rabbi Yehuda say? That you say Geshem, Mashiach Baruch Hu Geshem, until the Shachos of Pesach, Shachos of the first day. This is a daf. This is tomorrow's daf. This is going to be on the Daf. There's a mission over there, and it says, until when do you ask for rain? Until when do you say the same Talamota? Rabbi Yehuda says, until after Pesach is over. We stop Mashiach Baruch Hu Geshem in the last time is the first day of Pesach and the Moshe Shachris, and then when it comes to Chol HaMoed, you don't say the same Talamota anymore. We stop everything. We stop both of them together. There's no Mashiach Baruch Hu Geshem anymore by Musaf, and there's no Saint Alamot on Yontif anyway, but when it comes to Cholamot at night, Matzah Yontif, you're not going to say Saint Alamot. Here it says, Rabbi Yehuda says in the upcoming Mishnah, until after Pesach. The whole Pesach, he's still saying Saint Alamot. But Meir Omer, Shav Nisra, Meir says till the end of Nisan. After the whole month, even after Pesach, he's still saying Saint Alamot until Rosh Chodesh Iyar. So it's a contradiction in Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah said that Rosh Hashanah Geshem, you stop by Musaf of the first day of Pesach. And the Rabbi Yehuda says, you stop for Saint Alamot after Pesach. Contradiction. So Rav Chisda says an amazing thing, that you stop saying Mashu Baruch Amar Geshem in the second Rosh Hashanah, you stop it on the first day, and by Musaf of the first day of Pesach, but they still keep on still saying Saint Alamot for the rest of the Chol Hamoed. You stop saying Mashu Baruch Amar Geshem, and you are still asking for rain. And the Gemara right away says that's as counterintuitive as can be. I didn't finish what he's saying. Still, I'm Rav Chisda again. One is talking about asking for rain. One is talking about mentioning the praise of Hashem that He gives rain. We keep on asking until after Pesach. Haskir, beyond creation pasuk. But the mention Geshem, once it comes the first day of Pesach, we stop. Ula said this is inconceivable. It's pasuk in Mishnah when it wants to say something is very difficult. There must be something exact about the difficulty is, but I don't know what it is. But it's like vinegar for the teeth. That I guess a very sour and tart taste, and like smoke for the eyes. Like this, I can't accept such a thing. What's he saying? That you keep on asking for Saint Alamot and you stop saying Mashu Baruch Amar Geshem? The opposite would make sense. You could ask for it. You could mention us like we do. We mention Mashu Baruch Amar Geshem before we actually ask for it. But you're going to keep on asking for it and don't anymore mention the Shabbat. Not the Makom She'en Shoel Maskir. The Makom She'Shoel Ein Adin She'u Maskir. In a place where we don't ask, like we start saying Mashu Baruch Amar Geshem before we start asking it. That, okay, now you're going to say that a place you're asking for it, then you don't mention it anymore. If anything, it's the opposite. If you're asking for the rain, surely you should first preface and say Hashem, you give rain, and then ask for it. But to ask for it and to stop mentioning the praise of Hashem, so that can't be. So that answer seems to be rejected, and I don't know what refers to hell. El Ama'ula, even though Sumo Mishnah is mamish one after the next, the end of the last Mishnah we just learned, and upcoming Mishnah on Daf Hey, but it's two machlokes what Rabbi Yehuda holds. Means really they go together. The Saint Alamot, Mashu Baruch Amar Geshem, we start the same, we end the same time, but it's machlokes. According to our Mishnah, you stop Mashu Baruch Amar Geshem by Musaf of the first day of Pesach, and all together, and you stop Saint Alamot when it comes at night. Not say Yontif, Chol Hamoed, you're not going to save Saint Alamot anymore. And according to the other Mishnah, the next Mishnah is going to say that you save the Saint Alamot until after Pesach, so you say Mashu Baruch Amar Geshem also until after Pesach. They go together. You can't distinguish between them. And there's a machlokes what Rabbi Yehuda holds. That's Ula. The Gemara is going to hold on to Ula, but the Gemara is going to try a few more to besides that, and they're not going to work. We're going to get back to Ula again. Rav Yosef Amar, Ma Yad Shavra Pesach Had Shleyav Shliach Tzibor. We get Had Shavra Shliach Tzibor. Rishon Hayod Yontif Rishon Shel Pesach. Just together to zoom out a second. That's what we're trying to do. We have a contradiction that Mashu Baruch Amar Geshem seems to end by Shachris of Pesach, the first day of Pesach, and the Saint Alamot ends after Pesach. That's the contradiction. The first one, Rav Chisda tried to say that's the way it is, and the Gemara says impossible. How could you keep on asking for rain after you stop saying Mashu Baruch Amar Geshem? Rav Ula said that's a machlokes. The Taka goes together. There's no difference between Mashu Baruch Amar Geshem and Saint Alamot and machlokes. Does it stop by the first day of Pesach? Does it stop after Pesach? And now the Gemara is going to try to reconcile them. And the Gemara says, you know what it means after Pesach? It doesn't mean after Pesach. It means the first Shliach Tzibor of Pesach means the Shachris. Till the Baal Shachris finishes. When do you say Saint Alamoto? Until the Baal Shachris of the first day of Yontif finishes. So then you got it pretty much the same. Mashu Baruch Amar Geshem is still the first, it's still Shachris of Pesach. And now we're saying Saint Alamoto is also until the Shachris of the first day of Pesach. But the Gemara says that doesn't make any sense. Everyone should jump up. There is no Saint Alamoto in the morning in Shachris of the first day of Pesach. You say Yontif davening. You turn the Siddur to the back where it says Tefillah Shalosh Regalim. Over there it doesn't say Baruch Aleinu. There's no Saint Alamot. How could the Mishnah have said that you say the Saint Alamot until the first Baal Tefillah of the first day of Pesach? That's the more jumps up. First wide line. Is there anybody that's asking for rain on Yontif that you can say that you say the Saint Alamot until the morning of Pesach? There's no Saint Alamot in the morning of Pesach.
No, we don't talk about the Haskara.
No, okay.
I'm jumping.
No, let's go back into the Gemara again. That's not what the Gemara is talking about. The Gemara is reconciling the two Mishnahs. Both of them, there's the Mishnah about Haskara, there's the Mishnah about Sheila, and we had a contradiction. When do you stop? And we're trying to reconcile by saying both of them stop together. And when the Mishnah says Sheila, Sheila, the Mishnah says that Sheila is until after Pesach, he's saying that means until after the Shachos of Pesach. That's not true. There is no the same Talamot in the Shachos of Pesach. Amalei, second white line, yes, there is somebody that's asking for rain on the first day of Pesach. So you look in the Tefillah Shalom doesn't say it. Amalei in, Shlomo Torgama. The Torgama. Who's a Torgama? He's a Darshan. A Darshan. So Rashi says that in the Drasha he talks about the same Talamota. What does that mean? The Ben Chananel says that even though we don't know about it, it seems that they used to have somebody that would daven besides the regular tefillah, somebody like Piyutim, things like that, that he would say, Hashem, give us rain, even though it's not middle of the tefillah doesn't have it, but they would say it without that. But the Gemara says, does that make sense? That someone's going to ask for rain when you don't need it anymore? Till now, we're talking about the regular Shemon Esrei, it has to be a cutoff point. So you have to say, but my son, no one needs rain anymore. The first day of Pesach is not going to be in Shachos. We still need rain. And what's if we don't need rain? If it be something about the regular text of the Nusach for saying Talamot, it has to be a cutoff point someplace. And even though it's two tefillas, one away from the other one, this one we ask for rain, then we stop asking for rain, there has to be a cutoff point. But if there's no reason, no one wants rain anymore the first day of Pesach, and you're going to say a special insertion by the drasha or make somebody to stand up and say a tefillah, a piyutim about rain, we don't want rain anymore. It can't be. El Machvartik Ula, third white line. Back to Ula. Ula is right. That's a machlokas. The The first Mishnah says that it changes by Musaf of the first day of Pesach, and the other one says that it changes by the end of Pesach and machlokas. And there's no difference between Mashu Baruch and Mardagashim. Same Talamota. According to that Mishnah, you continue Mashu Baruch and Mardagashim also until the end of Pesach. The one tries another third still. One more try. Third white line. Rabbi Omar, Pesach.
What are we answering? What's the question?
The question was that the first Mishnah says Rabbi that changes Mashu Baruch Hu Geshem by Musaf Pesach, the first day of Pesach. The next Mishnah says that same Talamoto until after Pesach. These two things don't. How do you say it? Jive. They don't go together. So the more tries a few terutzim. So far, the only teretz that works so far is to say it's machlokas. There's no difference between Mashu Baruch Hu Geshem and same Talamoto. Our Mishnah says until the Musaf of Pesach, and then from then on you're not going to say Santa Alamoter either anymore when it comes Chol HaMoed. And the other Mishnah says that you say Saint Alamoter until then the Pesach, you're going to say Mashu Baruch Hu Geshem also. But there's no way to reconcile them. Yes.
Why is using as a point of reference such a quote unquote mistake here? Don't we do things like, for example, Sikatcha? If it was a day we were saying Tachnun, so we wouldn't be saying Tachnun, then we won't say it.
Yeah, but here
it uses a point of reference.
But here we're talking about on the first day of Pesach in the morning, that they say that the morning you still ask for rain, and after and Musaf you don't ask for rain. In the morning you don't ask in the text. There's no such text. No. You say you can't say Shachos and Musaf. You don't say Shachos. Yes, Musaf now. It's not the cutoff point. It happens not to be asking for. There's no asking for rain. Not by Mariv the night before, and not by Shachris. So you can't say Musaf is the cutoff point when you're talking about the same Talamota. There's no Saint Talamota. It's true. Let's say Amish looks Mashu Baruch Hu Geshem. You can say that that's the cutoff point because that bracha is always on Yantav davening also. The second blessing is the same on Yantav and on a weekday. So you say that's the cutoff point. And then if there's a Saint Talamota, you'll say it. There's not. That's a nice cutoff point. But to invent that the Shachris Musaf is the cutoff point for Saint Talamota, it doesn't exist. So the more trying to say there's a darshan or somebody who's saying piyutim on the side. But he's not going to, also that's not true. He's not going to make a cutoff point and insert the tefillah for rain on a day you don't need rain. If it will be the cutoff point, then the Gemara seems to tolerate it. We'll make a cutoff point even if you don't actually need rain. But if there's just to make a piyut and to add on, insert a new tefillah that doesn't exist, for what? There's no rain on that day. So the Gemara says, Ula's right, that there's a chaluk going on, according to one, everything, both of them stop by the Mashu Baruch Hu Geshem and the next to the same Talamot that comes up by the first day of Pesach, and the other Shita holds that you say both of them until after Pesach. Mashu Baruch Hu Geshem and Saint Talamota, the whole Chol HaMoed Pesach will be saying the Saint Talamota until Matziyanta, then you stop. The Gemara tries one more teretz, it's also not going to work. Third line, Rabbi Omar, Ma'at Shavra Pesach, At Shavra's Man Shchitas HaPesach. The Gemara tries to say that when he says he stops saving Saint Talamota until after Pesach, it doesn't mean the whole Pesach. It means until after Erev Pesach. Pesach means the Korban Pesach. The Korban Pesach is on the 14th of Nisan. Until after that, now he seemed to got it that you're going to stop for Saint Talamot. The last for Saint Talamot you're going to say is going to be Mincha Erev Pesach. Rashi says a little different. I'm saying I think it's a bit easier than Rashi that that after the Shchitas Pesach, which is the whole afternoon, you're allowed to make the Korban Pesach the whole Erev Pesach afternoon. So that is when you're davening Mincha, and after that there's no more V'sein Talamota. The last V'sein Talamota, this is getting closer already. We're trying to reconcile the first day of Pesach and Achavar Pesach. We tried to say Achavar Pesach means the Shliach Tzibur of Shachris didn't work. Now we're trying to say that it means until the Korban Pesach is over. What does that mean? That Erev Pesach is over. That means you said V'sein Talamota on Erev Pesach, and then the eve of Pesach, the first night of Pesach, you're not going to say V'sein Talamota anymore. That's true. But there is no V'sein Talamota, and it's nice to say that the last V'sein Talamota was Erev Pesach. And now, Mashu B'Chamar Gashem, he's still going to say, that's what the Gemara is going to talk about now. Because he says that Shachos of Pesach, he's still going to say Mashu B'Chamar Gashem. And V'sein Talamota, we stop Mincha, Erev Pesach. That means Marv and Shachris, you're not going to have V'sein Talamota, but you're still going to continue to say Mashu B'Chamar Gashem. The Gemara says, that was Rabba's Teretz. Ma'at Shavra Pesach, Hat Shavra Mashkitas Pesach, until after the Korban Pesach, Mincha, Erev Pesach. And what comes out? That you're saying Mashu B'Chamar Gashem even after you stop the Saint Talamota. So came so for just like in the beginning, when you start saying Mashu B'Chamar Gashem and the Saint Talamota, is also, what's the Gemara going to say? That it doesn't have to be mamash on the same break point. We start Mashu B'Chamar Gashem before we say the Saint Talamota, right? That's how we do. We start Mashu B'Chamar Gashem, and you still don't say the Saint Talamota until Zayin Cheshvan, let's say. So too, it's not terrible that you're going to say Mashu B'Chamar Gashem even after you finish saying the Saint Talamota. Theoretically, you could have stopped Mashu B'Chamar Gashem also. The last one should have been Erev Pesach. You say Saint Talamota, you say Mashu B'Chamar Gashem, and it comes at night, and you're not going to say it anymore. Could have been, but he says no. So forth. Just like the beginning, they weren't starting simultaneously. So too, the end, they don't stop simultaneously. Just like in the beginning, you say before you started asking the same Talamota. At the end, we still continue mentioning it even though we stopped asking. So the Gemara is entertaining the possibility that we're going to stop the same Talamota of Erev Pesach, and still another 2 tefillos we're still going to say But the Gemara says, that doesn't make sense. There's a reason to say Mashu B'Chamar Gashem before we start asking, because it's like the Gemara's going to call it a ritzur. Before you start asking, so first you are being Mishabeach as an introduction that what you want to ask for. But once you've finished asking for it, you don't need it anymore, then there's no reason to do this ritzur. Ritzur means like to find favor, to introduce, to be Mishabeach before the Bakasha, but that only makes sense before. Not just to make a mirror image, just like it started earlier, so it ends later also. That doesn't make sense. That's why it's Kasha Vishlam at Tlas Amaskir, Askar Nami Ritzi Shelohi. That Askar, imagining it is like a Ritzi for the Shela. It's like finding favor in order to be able to ask. So far, my Ritzi Shelohi. There's no reason to keep on saying Mashu B'Chamar Gashem. Once we stop the saying Talamot, we don't want the rain anymore. There's no reason anymore to talk about Mashu B'Chamar Gashem. Back to Ula, that was the only terrorist that holds that the two Mishnayos, they are arguing on each other. 2 Mishnayos in a row. The Rabbi over there said that the cutoff point is Musaf of the first day of Pesach. The next Mishnah says that it's after Pesach to argue on each other. And according to our Mishnah, Mashu B'Chamar Gashem is the cutoff point, and you're gonna say the same Talamota. Also, it comes out also that you say it's still Mincha. It comes out the Maisa that you still say that the Mincha is the last time you say the same Talamota. And Mashu Erev Pesach, and then Mashu B'Chamar Gashem, you still continue. And the other Mishnah says that you go to the same Talamota on the whole Chol Pesach, he's still saying the same Talamota. He's still saying the same Talamota and the whole Chol Pesach together with Mashu B'Chamar Gashem. Now the last Gemara, this is new Gemara now. Rabbi Yochanan said, he passed like Rabbi Yehuda, that the cutoff point is Musaf of the first day of Pesach. Is that true? No. Now we're going into the other Rabbi Yehuda, that you start saying Mashu B'Chamar Gashem by Musaf of Shmini Atzeres. In fact, this also until now was talking about the end, by the summer, by Pesach. Now we're going back to the beginning. When do you start saying Mashu B'Chamar Gashem? Rabbi Yochanan said, Rabbi Yehuda, that you start by Musaf of Shmini Atzeres. A contradiction in Rabbi Yochanan. Because this is the Mishnah that coming up. When you start saying Saint Talamota, again the Gemara is not willing to separate the Saint Talamota and Mashu B'Chamar. We have no problem. We separate it, but the Gemara is making that it's all together. The Saint Talamota and Mashu B'Chamar goes together. So our Mishnah says that you start saying Mashu B'Chamar Gashem on Shmini Atzeres. And the next Mishnah, that Yud, it says either Gimel Cheshvan, Rabbi Gamliel says Zayin Cheshvan, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Gamliel. it's not Rabbi Yochanan. It's before Rabbi Yochanan said, "Allah like Rabbi Yehuda." He started Mashiach Baruch Amar Geshem on Shmini Atzeres from Musaf, and here Rabbi Elazar says you pass like Rabbi Gamliel that he saved Saint Talamota on Zayin Cheshvan. And the Gemara makes some machlokas out of it. The Gemara is not willing to differentiate between Mashiach Baruch Amar Geshem and Saint Talamota. Like we're reading the Gemara, it's very strange to us because what's the problem? That's what we do. We do Mashiach Baruch Amar Geshem on Musaf of Shmini Atzeres. Saint Talamota we start on Zayin Cheshvan. What's the problem? But the Gemara sees a problem that these two things don't coincide with each other. The Gemara asks a contradiction. So first the Gemara says, it's not Rabbi Yochanan, this is Rabbi Yochanan, this is Rabbi Elazar, it's not a kasha. Amalei, Gaba, Kavam, if you're throwing a man on a man, it means it's not a kasha if it would be two different people, it's Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar. He paskins that everything starts on Mashiach Baruch, everything starts on Musaf of Shmini Atzeres, and then you start with Saint Talamota also as soon as you can. When it comes Matzah Yom, if you're going to save Saint Talamota, and the other one says Zayin Cheshvan, then you keep on saying Mashiach Baruch Amar Geshem. You don't say Mashiach Baruch Amar Geshem either until Zayin Cheshvan. Everything goes together, and it's machlok Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar. Ibo Yisema lo kasha. Kam lishol kam lahaskia. This now we're happy. This is us. Kam lishol kam lahaskia. This must be the best simple thing. The Mishnah reads so easily. There's two sugyas. You start saying Mashiach Baruch Amar Geshem on Shmini Atzeres, and you start saying Saint Talamota on Zayin Cheshvan. Very nice. This is to ask. You don't ask till Zayin Cheshvan, but lahaskia to mention it. You mention it even by Shmini Atzeres. So it's great, but the Gemara is going to fall off of this, even though we pass like this. So we're going to have to figure out where do we come from if the Gemara says differently. The Gemara doesn't accept this teretz. Let's see. Rabbi Yochanan seems to say against the teretz. Rabbi Yochanan says it goes together. Sheil and Askar go together. When you ask, you also mention. But the Gemara says that's not. First, the Gemara is not convinced. That's only talking about when you stop. You stop simultaneously by Pesach time. But to start, you start two different times. You start Mashiach Baruch starts on Shmini Atzeres. Saint Talamota starts on Zayin Cheshvan. But the Gemara is still no. It's not true. Rabbi Yochanan didn't say so. Rabbi Yochanan, Hischal Haskir, Maschal Lishol, Postek Malishol, Postek Malhaskir. When you start mentioning, you start asking. You stop asking, you start mentioning. So he says first that it goes together. That when you start mentioning Mashiach Baruch Amar Geshem, you also start with Saint Talamota. So contradiction comes back that one Mishnah says Shmini Atzeres, one Mishnah says Zayin Cheshvan, and the Gemara doesn't want to differentiate between Mashiach Baruch and Saint Talamota. Everything goes together. So back to the contradiction. Elul Kasha, Halon V'Alahu. It depends if you us is Bavel and them is Eretz Yisrael. And the Gemara is going to say that everyone starts Mashiach Baruch and Saint Talamota together, but us in Babel, Baruch Hashem, it's not us in Babel, but Lan means to the people in Babel, and the Hu means the people in Eretz Yisrael. That the people of Babel, they start Zayin Cheshvan. The people of Eretz Yisrael, they start Shmini Atzeres. And it's not everything Shmini Atzeres. That's not for Saint Talamota also. As soon as it comes the next time to say for Saint Talamota, they're going to say it. And Eretz Yisrael and Babel, they don't start Mashiach Baruch Amar Geshem either until Zayin Cheshvan. What's the difference? Yes?
Is this therefore the differentiation between Ashkenaz and Sephardim?
No.
Okay.
What do you see? Where are they different about?
There's a difference in what's said.
No, he's talking about the bracha. Baruch Halei. We say Baruch Halei.
It's just a longer Saint Talamota.
Okay, there's no differentiation in pronunciation or remembering.
No, at the same time. When you start, it's the same thing. The only question is what you say. That's two words, Saint Talamota, or you say big nusach. But it's just even the Ashkenazim also say that when it's a drought, they also say that. Some say it by Shema Kolenu. Some say it by Shema Kolenu.
You're saying it would be better to say like
in the yeshiva, they used to say in the yeshiva when they had a drought, the years they had a drought, they didn't say it in Shema Kolenu. They said it in Baruch Kolenu. They said the nusach of the Shema.
It doesn't also mean if one, let's say, messed in the beginning, said Talamatra instead of Mashiach Baruch Amar Geshem. If you have the longer bracha, it kind of includes the first
I don't think so.
No.
No. It's just a longer tachnunim about asking for rain. Everybody says it. When you say it, then everybody says it. So anyway, the Gemara is very interesting that it doesn't go with the teretz. It doesn't go with the teretz that we say the difference between Mashiach Baruch and starts in Shmini Atzeres. The Gemara is going something else. It depends where you live. In Babel, they start everything in Zayin Cheshvan. This is not what we do at all. In Babel, they start Zayin Cheshvan, and in Israel, they start right away Shmini Atzeres. The Gemara says,
even in America, everywhere in the world. Today, it's how it's done.
Don't apply that to today because today we do altogether different. We'll get soon. So the Gemara says, why is Babel, do they start everything Zayin Cheshvan? Why do they push it off? Because they have peri b'dava, they have still produce in the field, and it's not good for them yet that it should rain. the rain, for Bubba, it's not good that that should rain for another 2 weeks. Whatever the agricultural reason is, it wasn't good for them that it should rain till Zayin Cheshvan. But Eretz Yisrael doesn't have that problem, and therefore they can start right away from Shmini Atzeres. But the Gemara says not true. Eretz Yisrael also has issues that they shouldn't want to rain until Zayin Cheshvan because all the regolim. That's really what the Mishnah says later on. That after Sukkot is over, the people have to go back home, and they don't want it to rain on the road. So therefore, we should also push off and not ask for rain until Zayin Cheshvan. So the Gemara says you're right. You come Rabbi Yochanan, not in Beis Mikdash Kam. Rabbi Yochanan is meant Eretz Yisrael when there's no Beis Mikdash. And as far as the agriculture, it doesn't make a difference if the Beis Mikdash is standing or not. They need the rain shouldn't come until Zayin Cheshvan. But in Eretz Yisrael, the only reason why they want to push off the rain is because Oli Regel. That's only when there's Oli Regel, when there's Beis Mikdash. When there's no Beis Mikdash, and then there is no Oli Regel. So then they start right away Shmini Atzeres. Again, the Gemara the whole time is not differentiating between Mashiach Ruach Amar Geshem and Saint Talamot. They go together. In Eretz Yisrael, when the Beis Mikdash is not standing, they could want the rain right away. But in Baba, they don't want the rain to come till Zayin Cheshvan. And also in Eretz Yisrael, when the Beis Mikdash is standing, they don't want the rain to come till Zayin Cheshvan because people have to get home after Sukkot. But the Gemara says that's good. It could even say both Mishais are talking about Eretz Yisrael. One is when the Beis Mikdash is standing, then you push it off until Zayin Cheshvan. And if not, then you do right away Shmini Atzeres. That's the end of the Gemara. There's one more piece which we're going to do still, but the Gemara Be'etzem is over already. That there's no difference between Mashiach Ruach Amar Geshem and Saint Talamot that they go simultaneously. The Gemara just saying that Eretz Yisrael, when there's no Beis Hamikdash, they can start right away. But in Eretz Yisrael, when there is a Beis Hamikdash, or in Baba, which they always have to have the rain to start with Zayin Cheshvan, but then you pull up the Zayin Cheshvan. There's one more Gemara now that goes till the next page. Anand Islam Trey Yomi. This again. We finished with 4 lines in the bottom. Anand, and that's interesting again that this is not at all what we do. We do Mashiach Amar Geshem by Shmini Atzeres. Yisuf Saint Talamot by Zayin Cheshvan, and Chutz Laretz does it even later, some before. So we don't see it there. In our Gemara we don't have it. The Gemara continue Gemara. Anand Islam Trey Yomi Hechev Dinam. It says in the Mishnah you're supposed to start Shmini Atzeres by Musaf. Then you start saying Mashiach Amar Geshem. How about if you have 2 days Shmini Atzeres? In Chutz Laretz they have 2 days Shmini Atzeres. They go to Shmini Atzeres and Chutz Laretz it's 2 days of Shmini Atzeres. So what do? When do you start saying Mashiach Amar Geshem? On the first day, on the second day, what do? Amarav Maskil b'Musafin uposik b'Mincha Arbis v'Shachris v'Chozer b'Musafin. You start by Musaf of the first day. You say Mashiach Amar Geshem, then you stop. Only for Musaf. On the first day, you're surprised. We don't do it this way, but that's what Rav said. You do a Mashiach Amar Geshem the first day by Musaf, and then you stop. And Musaf. Mincha, Mariv, Shachris. You don't say Mashiach. Then Musaf again. On Simchas Torah. Then you say again Mashiach Amar Geshem. Amalu Shmuel, Shmuel said, go tell Rav, Abba is his name, go tell him after you made it Kodesh, you're going to make it Chol. Means Musaf, he says Mashiach Amar Geshem, then you're going to go Mincha, and you're not going to say Mashiach Amar Geshem. Ella Amar Shmuel, so he doesn't do what you want yet. Ella Amar Shmuel, Maskal Musaf, and Uva Mincha. Say it also by Mincha also. Musaf on the first day, Shmini Atzeres, is Mashiach Amar Geshem, also Mincha. But then Ma'ariv is again starting all over again. So Mariv and Shachris, you're not going to say Mashiach Ruach, and then Musaf you'll say it again. And then but that's not what we do. Even the people in Chutz Laretz. And back on to the next page. I didn't do the next page. I don't have the next page. Okay, I don't have time to put it on now. The Gemara's going to end off. We'll see tomorrow. The Gemara is off on the top of Daf Hey that we do it like the way we do it. That you start on the first day of Shmini Atzeres and you don't stop. Once you start, even though it comes the second day of Shmini Atzeres, Simchas Torah, it's maybe today's Shmini Atzeres. No, once you start on the first day of Shmini Atzeres, you say Mashiach Amar Geshem, then you continue Mincha, Mariv, Shachris. The rest of the year, the rest of the winter, you don't go back anymore. We'll see the rest of the words inside. I wasn't able to put it on the screen. We'll continue tomorrow. Yashikara.
So we all start at the same time.
Who's
us and the people in the middle.
yes, Mashiach Amar Geshem starts at the same time. But as the Gemara, our Gemara says that you're not. But we'll see the
What do we do?
right. So Allah is going to be the way you know it, but the Gemara doesn't have that yet. Okay, we'll be back soon with Pirkei Avos.